Good morning, everyone. I hope you all have had a great Black History Month this far. It would be an understatement to say that the last few years have been filled with various trials and tribulations. Yet I am proud that we have overcome each and every one thrown our way. From being stolen from our ancestral land, sold into bondage, and being denied basic rights, my people have continually resisted their conditions. And in the present day, where our right to exist is seen as controversial, it is obvious that the fight is far from over. However, I am honored to come from a long line of people who have never given up. And with that, I am reminded of why we celebrate Black History Month. When it was established as Negro History Week in 1926, many were doubtful that we had enough history and accomplishments to fill just 7 days. And now we celebrate Black History Month for the full month of February. Although I am excited every year as February rolls around, I am continually frustrated that the celebration of my history and culture is confined to just 28 days. This is yet another example of the way in which Black people have been slighted in this country. Our history being whitewashed or completely ignored as we are pushed to the side as for some reason there has been a failure to acknowledge Black history as American history. Thank you. Pull your mask over your nose.
Huh? Oh. Thank you, Aisha. The theme that we have been exemplifying during this month, and as well as for this assembly, is the preservation of history. My ancestors were stripped of their traditions, native language, and culture and forced to assimilate. However, they were able to hold on to their heritage through storytelling and griots, which has transformed into modern-day rap music. Additionally, the new generations created a new culture, holding traditions and spreading messages through literature, music, and dance. Throughout the presentation today, I hope you are thinking about the way your lives are influenced by Black history and culture. Thank you.
This poem is titled Bury Me in a Free Land by Frances Harper. Here she shares brutality of slavery as well as her desire to live in a world where Black people are no longer in bondage. Make me a grave where you'll live, in a lowly plain or a lofty hill. Make it among earth's humblest graves, but not in a land where men are slaves. I could not rest if around my grave I heard the steps of a trembling slave. His shadows above my silent tomb would make it a place of fearful gloom. I could not rest if I heard the tread of a cawful gang to the trembled leads, and the mother's shriek of wild despair rise like a curse of the trembling air. I could not sleep if I saw the lash of drinking her blood at each fearful gash, and I saw her babes torn from her breast like trembling doves from their parents' nests. I shudder and start if I heard the bay of bloodhounds seizing their human prey, and I heard the captive plead in vain as they bound afresh his galling chain. If I saw young girls from their mother's arms, bartered and sold from their youthful charms, my eye would flash with a mournful flame, my death-pale cheek grow red with shame. I sleep, dear friends, where bloated might can rob no man of his dearest right. My rest shall be calm in any grave, where none can call his brother a slave. I ask no monument proud and high, to arrest the gaze of passers-by. All that my yearning spirits craves is burying me not in the land of slaves. Thank you.
And this poem is titled For My People by Margaret Walker. It relates the hardships faced by Black people as well as their triumphs. For my people everywhere singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years and the now years and the maybe years, washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, plowing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sand of Alabama, backyards playing, baptizing and preaching, and doctor and jail and soldier and school and mama and cooking and playhouse and concert and store and hair and Miss Chumbi and company. For the cramped, bewildered years we went to school to learn, to know the reasons why and the answers to, and the people who, and the places where, and the days when. in memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black and poor and small and different, and nobody cared and nobody wondered and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things to be man and woman, to laugh and dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people thronging in 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans, lost, disinherited, dispossessed, and happy people filling the cabarets and taverns and other people's pockets needing, breeding, and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time, being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omissionally and laugh. For my people blundering and groping and floundering in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and deceived and devoured by money-hungry, glory-craving leeches, preyed on by the facile force of state and fad and novelty, by false prophet and holy believer. For my people standing, starting, trying to fashion a better way from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all of the people, all the faces, all the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written and let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control. Thank you. What? Oh, the video's next. Who's next? You? No, the video is next. Okay, where's the video at? The video, yeah.
Creating something from nothing is in Black America's DNA. As enslaved African families were torn apart, their musical traditions continued to cultivate all genres of American music. Slave Code of South Carolina, Article 36, written in 1740 reads, "It is absolutely necessary to the safety of this province that all due care be taken to restrain Negroes from using or keeping of drums." In the 1700s, drums were banned in plantations and a new form of resistance was created. That resistance was creating new instruments and singing. Negro spirituals developed into what we know as rag. By 1899, ragtime rose to national popularity through composer and pianist Scott Joplin's Maple Leaf Rag. That same year, the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, was completed by brothers James and John Johnson. At the turn of the century, blackness was on the move with the migration of African Americans from the South to Midwest and North. This time, the sound transformed to blues. There is no American music culture without Black America. As we step into July, remember who we are.
Okay. I will be reading a poem entitled Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. In the piece, she narrates her own resistance against oppression and instills power in marginalized groups, specifically Black women. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
With Black History Month coming to a close, we feel it's incredibly important to reflect on its impact. This isn't just an important time for Black people, but for all Americans. Black History Month is a time to recognize and praise African Americans for their myriad accomplishments and contributions to American society as we know it. Frankly, the United States wouldn't be as unique and cultivated without the great influence of Black culture. We built this country. We built the White House. We created the pacemaker. And if you've taken a moment to look at the bulletin board that's been set up, you would see we invented many of the objects essential for our daily lives. The list goes on and on and on. America was built off of the backs of slaves, our ancestors. Despite the centuries of oppression, bigotry, and blatant discrimination that we continue to face to this day, Black people continue to rise above, to work twice as hard, to fight for our lives and simultaneously combat the injustices in our society. We are such a powerful people, a powerful community, and our accomplishments in this incredibly prejudiced world deserve to be commended. Carter G. Woodson invented this month because to neglect the achievements of Black people is to essentially erase a crucial part of America's history. We as a country must be grateful for the tremendous efforts of Black men and women who have sacrificed so much for me, for us, to be here. Let us praise them for their bravery, for their strength. Let us enlighten the world of the historical events that have occurred in the past and the current injustices that have yet to be properly addressed. Finally, let us not just celebrate Black history for 1 month. Let us cherish it every day. Without it, we wouldn't be here. Thank you.